let's move on to Kickboxer 5 from 1995. This one is it's about a disgraced South African kickboxing kingpin of sorts who decides to start his own kickboxing federation and forces all the great fighters in the world to either join or he kills them. It's a plot that seems quite half-baked to me. It doesn't completely make sense. Like, in this movie, he brings all these fighters in, and, okay, he kills the ones that don't join, but if they do join, I know he can make money off them, but it seems like as the movie goes along, he just wants all their belts, but if he's not killing the ones who joins, is he really getting their belt? I don't know. It's just a movie with a plot that just seems kind of stupid to me. But in addition to that, obviously this is a sequel to the other kickboxing movies, and you could easily make the argument that if you took out a few lines of dialogue at the beginning of the movie, there's nothing at all that ties this one to the previous 4 movies. So I don't know if they made this movie or began making this movie as a standalone movie that had nothing to do with the other 4 movies, and they just went, if we just add a few bits of dialogue that mentions a character from the previous movie, now we can call it a sequel and just market it that way and, get more people to watch the movie. I'm guessing that's what happened, but who knows, I could be wrong. But either way, I thought, at least compared to the other 4 movies, this is the worst movie in the series.
Yeah, so this was obviously a pretty cheap movie, much like the 4th movie. But I actually enjoyed this movie a bit more than the 4th one, mainly because I feel like the fighting in this movie, and there's quite a bit of fighting, it, I guess, kept me a bit more engaged. And I sort of like the whole, what's the guy's name? Matt Reeves, I think. Him teaming up with the other guy, going on like a fighting rampage, trying to get to this, big federation boss. It's sort of like a cheap body fight movie. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was occasionally amusing. It's nothing, spectacular, but for like a cheaply made martial arts movie, I don't know what more you could ask for, to be honest.
I went into it expecting it to be worse than it actually was, because I had seen this movie a long time ago back in the 90s. I only watched it once, didn't like it, never returned to it. It's because it really has no ties to the other movies, outside of actually a couple bits of dialogue at the beginning, which, to be honest, is very disrespectful to me, in which they say, David Sloan got killed, whatever.
I mean, is that pretty much what they did in the 2nd movie, though?
Not entirely, because they did film scenes with Van Damme's character in it, and at least they still left in one scene where they actually did show him getting killed, and I guess the saving grace there is that they still brought back Tong Po and other characters from that first movie. They brought Zian back. There was a lot still to like in Kickboxer 2. If you enjoyed the first movie, I feel. I know some people mainly just missed Van Damme and they cut it off there, but that's just, it really pisses me off that they just kill off a character with a line of dialogue. Especially in this movie, because, to be honest, there's the bad guy in this movie. He's, look, he's not terrible, but he in comparison to someone like Tong Po or whatever, he just feels like nothing. But, like I was saying, I actually didn't dislike this as much as I thought I was going to when I rewatched this. I did mildly enjoy the relationship between the 2 main characters. I did like the aspect of them teaming up, even though, I wouldn't say the fights in the scenes in the movie are all that special to me. They might be a little more, I don't know, the previous movies felt like they were more geared towards actual kickboxing, the sport, whereas this is just more, hey, let's go around and do a bunch of fancy kicks and things like that. The one funny thing in the movie is just some of these characters are pretty ridiculous, like with the accents. I mean, they got one guy in here who, I don't know if you've watched Happy Gilmore, but it reminds me of Shooter McGavin, like a guy who eats pieces of shit for breakfast. He's just ridiculous. He had this ridiculous accent. In fact, I actually used that Shooter McGavin gif on you, I think it was yesterday, where I was doing the finger guns.
Yes.
But, you know, there's other characters in the movie with just some ridiculous accents. There's this one German guy, I think it was German, it was kind of towards the end of the movie, just before the casino thing, where
he was
gets
one of the
into
most generic German guys I've ever seen, by the way.
just listening to him, yeah, it's good, let's fight on the lawn. It was just stupid.
I mean, it did have a pretty intense prison break, though.
That was okay. I mean, the moment where the guy goes up in flames, sure. But yeah, I think overall it's a fairly generic 90s action movie with not a whole lot of star power. Mark Dacascos, he was very young in this movie. He did eventually pop up in some more popular movies or bigger movies. And he's a decent martial artist. So, you know, there's at least a little something to see here. I still think the big thing about the Kickboxer movies are the characters they had already established in those first few movies. And that's what kind of kept the series going. And this is the last movie, and obviously this is where the series ends, this is where it died. And I'm not surprised because, like I said, the characters in here, there's no ties to the first movie outside of saying, oh, David Slaughter died. You know, you can watch it, but you'll forget it.
I don't think I have anything more.
One last thing that I wanted to say. Towards the beginning of this movie, there's a scene where the blonde American guy, he's fighting with these thugs because he won't sign that contract. And maybe I missed something, maybe I wasn't paying great attention, but it seems that, and he dies, obviously, from what we see, but the last blow that he takes, like the last big blow that he takes, is just a backbreaker where someone just drops him on their knee. Now, I can understand if maybe he's crippled for life or anything like that. That move's not going to kill anyone. I mean, that's a move they do in wrestling all the time. It's not killing anyone. You could get hurt from it. I don't think it's going to kill you.
I do not know enough about anatomy to reply.
Yeah, well, I just thought that was a silly way to die.
I mean, it looked pretty painful to me. I mean, I could sort of see that causing enough damage.
Sure, it'd be painful. And like I said, you could get seriously hurt from it. I don't think you could. I mean, the chances of you dying from something like that is probably 0.001%. And I guess, you know, being a movie, we don't expect 100% realism. We expect things that are unexpected. So I guess, you know, it's a shitty 90s action movie. We'll give it a break, but still, it's just amusing to see someone die from a move like that. Anyways, I'll just sum it all up by saying this is a movie that I didn't hate as much as I thought I would hate it upon rewatching, but it's still the worst movie in the series. Even if they hadn't killed off David Sloan, I still would have felt it was the weakest movie. And to be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that they said, oh, David Sloan's been murdered, let's move on, I may have given this a 6 out of 10. But because of that, they did him so dirty, I can't forgive that. I'm going one below, I'm giving it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, so this one is just like a low-quality martial arts movie, which is pretty much the same as Kickboxers 2 through 4.
Hey!
I stand by that statement. I mean, I really like the first Kickboxer. I think I gave it like a 9 out of 10. But the second one was, at least in my opinion, it seemed like a pretty steep decline. And the series sort of like never got too much better than the second movie. And I know this movie, it wasn't great, but it's sort of like the type of movie you expect to see on like maybe TNT, like it's 3 a.m., just a action movie that you can throw on, maybe have a little fun with. I was entertained. I didn't particularly think any character was memorable, but I sort of enjoyed the interactions between the characters, and I don't know, I had an okay time with it. It's totally below average movie, but I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10.
Wow. You may be the biggest fan for this movie now.
It's interesting, I was just looking on the IMDb pages. This movie actually has the same rating as the fourth movie does. Both of them have like a 4 out of 10. So I thought that was mildly interesting. Apparently people don't see a big difference between the two.
See, that's the thing. I think because... See, this movie is made... It's made okay for, a 90s direct-to-video action movie. It's kind of what you expect from that. It's not poorly made, it's just a very generic action movie. The other one... See, I believe a big reason why people give Kickboxer 4 a bad rating is because they brought back a character, someone completely different play that character. We're talking about Tong Po here. And a lot of people found it ridiculous because he looked like he was wearing a mask and his character changed. They made him a lot weaker. So...
I mean, to me that seems like a legitimate reason to dislike the movie.
It is, but it's more based on a character than it is the actual quality of the movie itself. I still feel that people would prefer Kickboxer 4 over 5, but because of that one thing, what they did to a specific character, that dragged it down quite a lot.
I mean, I think Kickboxer 4 had more problems than that, but that was then and this is now.
Well, it's not the only problem, but that was probably the biggest thing that I see people complain about.